We are here for the primary painting part of our sculpture. So far we have looked at Terrell Powell's pieces, just a few of them. He's an Austin-based artist, and we are looking at his pieces to be inspired and to get some ideas for our own wooden sculptures that we're creating here together. We then looked at a real-life bird, one that we would find here in Texas, and then we went from having a very three-dimensional spherical roundedness to the bird to kind of simplifying it into really flat block basics. And with these block basics, then we were able to build our design using different pieces of wood. So the other day, we took some time exploring using different pieces of wood to express different parts of the bird. So these feather shapes, these organic feather shapes would be maybe the wing of the bird, maybe doubling a flat circle with a sphere and a hole for an eye. Just really using our imaginations and starting to build up our sculpture so that we can create something. Ours are not going to be on a flat base like his. Ours will be on more of a cube base, but that's okay. It's okay to do things a little different. Let's look at this example from a Now Marathon high school student. I love the colors on this piece. I also love how she incorporated the different styles that Powell would do with his eye and just the basic addition of the tail feather here. And then I have a couple of other block pieces that were kind of started but never finished. And I kept them. I could not get rid of them because of the colors and the color combinations, the way that they work together. This is a purple and green stripe, and then this is a really kind of navy with purple on top pattern, and they just work so well together. So I want you to think about your color combinations. At the library, you should have chosen probably 5 regular colors in your cups with lids, and then I'm going to always ask you to get a black and a white, and these are always good neutrals to use. Typically we use the black and the white to make the other colors pop. We use them for detail work and such. So now that you have chosen your paint colors, we are going to start. If you have not taken time to plan where these colors are going to go, I would take just a moment to kind of do that. You could either use some crayons, color pencils, markers. You could even use a little bit of this paint if you wanted the exact colors. And you could color this real fast to get an idea of what it might look like. You could just label. So I could do the Y here for yellow. I could do this tail here, T for teal. I have a teal turquoise, and maybe the O for orange here on the body. So take some time to get an idea of what you would like to do. And remember, we are being playful. This is a playful sculpture. We're not taking ourselves too seriously on this piece. We're just having fun, and we're creating with fun colors, repeated patterns, shapes, and lines. So let's get started. On your piece, you're gonna notice, once again, we have still not glued anything down. It's gonna be much easier for you to glue things down after they have dried. So that's why we are taking time to paint everything first, and then we're gonna leave it on a surface to let it dry. And then tomorrow we'll come back after all of our pieces are dry, and we will start reconstructing it so that it is a final piece. So find what you would like to start with, and I'm gonna actually start with my base. I think I chose the colorations from the library. I just picked up a tub and brought it over. And you can see that my wood is going to show through. It is this is more going to be transparent than the more opaque paint that you would get from the tempera. So if you don't like the wood showing through and you want to cover all of that up, when you're getting your paints, make sure you're asking whichever adult is helping you, make sure that you are asking for either the tempera that doesn't show, which is opaque, or the colorations that will show the wood finish. This is almost gonna be like a stain, a color stain. When I am painting three-dimensional objects like this rectangular prism, it's not exactly a cube, I always start with the top so that I can hold the sides that I'm working with, and the bottom will be something that I come back to later, because if you paint the bottom and you put it down, what's going to happen? It's going to stick. So always paint the top and the sides first, or even the top and a couple of sides, and then you can come back after those are dry and you're able to touch. While I'm putting this base coat on, this is the base of my bird sculpture. Unlike Terrell Powell's, his bases were reclaimed, reused wood that he was putting into his pieces, but they were very flat. Those examples were flat. And so mine is gonna have dimension. And I am probably going to come back once this top coat is finished. I'm going to come back and add a pattern to it. I'm not mixing colors. This is not a mixing paint lesson. That's not our goal for this piece. And so I'm not going to work with wet on wet paint. I'm going to move this to the side, let this dry. And keep going with my next parts. If you choose the colorations from the library, remember I bought some really fun colors this summer. There are some fluorescent colors that are a possibility if you want your bird to be really bright and colorful and whimsical. It is completely up to you on this piece. And use all the paint on your brush. And then when you start seeing that it's not covering anymore, like that, then you can redip. Try to use the same color while you have it. So if I know that I want my legs to be yellow, and I also want my eye to be yellow, at least one of my eyes, then I'm going to go ahead and do that while I have the yellow on my brush. Something like a sphere is going to be a little more difficult. I might get my fingers a little dirty, or I might only be able to do a part of it and then come back after this part is dry and finish the bottom section. Whichever liquid paint you choose, just remember you do not need water. So yes, you need to wash your brush in between your paint, but you do not need a watery brush. There's no reason to water these colors down. Now this balsa wood is taking in more of the color, more of the paint, which is interesting. It's soaking it in a little bit more like a sponge in comparison to the yellow and the orange. So this is going to be a much more vivid color. Okay, I've painted a couple of different pieces, and at this moment I want you to continue to choose pieces of your wood that you've chosen for your sculpture, and I want you to continue painting the base coat. So we have taken some time to paint all of our pieces. Remember, this is dimensional. It has depth, and so you're going to have to do all your sides. The only part that you don't have to paint is maybe the absolute base. Maybe you are gluing something to another piece, so you won't need to maybe paint that. You might not have to paint the backs of certain pieces because you're going to glue them down. But if it's a dimensional piece, you are going to have to paint all the sides. Also, depending on the paint you chose, remember there's different paints for you to choose from. You may have to do more than one coat of paint. And so that's some of what I've been doing while I've been painting, is going back to my pieces and getting all of their sides that I needed to be painted. Going back, and because I am using the colorations, some of it is not as dark as I wanted it to be, so I'm going back and just making sure that all of those parts are painted. So we have our base colors now, and we're gonna take some time to now come back and add some fun, whimsical patterns and designs on top of that base color. So you have already chosen the colors that you wanted from the library, and the whole idea is to repeat those colors at some point within the piece. So if my base is orange and my feathers are this magenta fuchsia color, I'm gonna come back with that magenta fuchsia color, and I'm personally going to add some design patterns to, this is my very bottom base, and then I'll be building on top of that with my blue, and then going from there. So I'm gonna dip my brush into my detail color, and I'm gonna come back and start adding my first stripe. Going slow. This is not something that you have to go quick at. It's not something that you have to rush. In fact, maybe you did the base coat one day and you let it dry somewhere safe in your house, and now you're coming back to add the details. I'm not measuring these lines. I'm not I don't have a line that I'm going by. I'm just using my brush, the width of my brush as I'm pulling along to get this fun detail. Maybe you're wanting to add some fun details. Keep it simple. Don't try to do like a full painting on this. a full landscape painting or something. We're just having fun, adding some color. If you are worried about your lines being wobbly or not perfectly straight, you could get a straight edge and mark a faint line. That would be perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong if that is how precise you want to be. Notice that I'm not letting my brush go dry this time. When I'm doing details, I want good full color, so I keep my brush loaded as I'm pulling it across to make my lines. So this is the front of my base when we're looking at it, and I'm going to turn this slightly and just continue my lines. I want to be able to see where I'm coming from. Just give myself an idea. I find that I do better when I have something for my palm to rest on. It's a little bit harder, it gets a little harder whenever your hand is in the air. That would be the same for handwriting. When we're handwriting in school, it's a suggestion that you keep your palm down. It steadies your hand. Okay, I'm going to let these two sides dry, and I'm going to move on to another part. Still using this magenta, reusing our colors. When you use your colors again and again, you are creating unity within your piece. Think about all your sides. If you were to walk around your piece when it's finished, would all of your sides be painted? So that's something to think about. And if you're gluing a piece down to another piece, then maybe that is a part that you're not going to need to worry about. But today we're going to do our detail painting so that we can come back and all of our pieces will be dry and we will be able to start our final step, which will be the gluing of our sculpture together. Isn't it interesting how I'm using balsa wood for this, but it's taken the paint two different ways, as well as this blue. Originally, I thought this blue was going to pop from the turquoise a little bit more, but it hasn't done that at all. It actually almost fades in or blends away. So, probably gonna have to think about that. Once your piece is dry, if you need to go back, once again, if you're using the tempera opaque, then probably one coat is going to do it. But if you're using the transparents, you may have to go back and build up your color a little bit more. Okay, I've come back and finished my yellow while we were painting apart. And so now I'm going to start using my black. My black is transparent, but I can get a good coverage on it. I noticed that whenever I was painting my white, I'm not getting a good coverage. And so the white, this transparent white, is not going to be really what I need for finishing details. So if you were choosing the black and white, I definitely would make sure that you have the opaque so that you can get the colors that you're needing. So we are finishing up on our kind of fun patterned details using some of the colors that we've already used somewhere in our sculpture, and then we're setting these over to the side and letting them dry. Maybe you're not really sure what extra designs you're wanting to add, and that's fine. Maybe you need to wait and figure some of that out once you get the piece assembled. You are going to have to wait a little while for the glue to dry, so which is fine. You still have plenty of summer left to do that. And if you need to take time to do two sides of, like for example, this rectangular prism, and then put it over to the side, cover your paint with your lid and let this dry, and then you can come back and continue. It's easier to hold things when you're not getting paint. If for some reason, maybe you're sharing with a sibling, maybe the balsa wood took up too much of the color, or you've gone back and painted over your color a couple of times and you need more paint, just take the same paint cup back and ask for a refill. We have plenty of paint. The same for, like, if you decided you needed a different paint. I've noticed that my white is not going to work for what I need to do on my eyes. So I'm gonna have to go back and get a different white, and that's fine. We're gonna let our wood pieces dry, and then when they are all dry with our base colors and our interesting patterns, we're gonna come back and start assembling our sculpture. So meet me back tomorrow after our piece is dry, and we're going to start gluing our final piece together.